Alrighty, everyone, welcome back for another episode of Collegiate Exclusive. Last time we saw all of you, TJ and I were live in Huntsville for the SCL LAN. Now we're back at home. It's the middle of summer, a month later, but there is still a lot of Collegiate Rocket League action happening that I think we felt the need to break down here in the middle of June. But first of all, TJ, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Obviously, the setup's not as pretty as yours. Some of us have to move around, so I hope everything is good. Camera quality looks good. Mic quality has been hit or miss, but we should be good. It's been a very busy summer. We have a lot to talk about, not only just within CCS and some of your kind of mid-tier, top 32, top 16 fighting rosters, but also Colleague PreJump, a very, very exciting event that happens this Wednesday. We got a lot to talk about there.
I mean, those two tournaments, along with all of the roster moves that are leading into PreJump this week, that's the big reason why we're live right now, because there isn't a ton going on. Fortunately, I think we both could use a break after the SCL LAN, and so we're kind of taking that. But I know you've got some big changes coming up. I feel like we got to talk about the biggest roster move of the summer so far, DJTJ switching schools.
Oh, yeah, you know, the most impactful one that we'll talk about today by a mile. No, finally figured out where I was landing. Got a very nice time to go up to West Virginia, film a nice little video, and yeah, I'm officially going to Concord University. So a lot of big, exciting stuff there. Oh, and you got the tweet pulled up. Yeah, it's a 5-minute video. It's a cinematic masterpiece, obviously. We had a lot of fun filming that. It took us about 2 or 3 hours of just going around and doing random ideas, and whatever stuck together stuck. But that's the type of stuff that I think myself and the media team at Concord are going to be all about. We had a really good time just throwing ideas off the wall and seeing what stuck. And not to mention, I get to work very closely with Sean, Chase, and CMOS as well. And I will be officially going over there as head coach. I'll be there as live production lead. I'll be an event coordinator, which I do have a lot to talk about regarding event coordination and what Concord will be hosting. Unfortunately, I can't talk about it today, but within the next month, I will be able to reveal so much, and we are very excited. We're going to be bringing a lot of money and a lot of action to campus. That's all I can say for now.
How are we supposed to leak things on our own podcast if you won't leak your own things on our podcast? But fair enough. Congratulations, TJ.
I'm under agreements. It's not technically my event yet. Once I set foot on campus for boot camp, it'll be all mine. But either way, I'm very excited. I can't wait to share with everybody.
Well, still a big change for you. I'm excited to see what you can do with Concord. I love the people there already, and now I love one more person that's going to Concord. So that's the big change. I suppose some more podcasts in the future will be, I guess, half hosted from Concord's campus. But either way, there is a lot more in the Collegiate Rocket League landscape to talk about here. So I mean, I think when we jump straight into the roster moves, maybe I'm going to use the PreJump page to actually go over a lot of the roster moves. So let's talk about that tournament first, just kind of gloss over it before really diving in later in the show. But Colleague announced a couple of weeks ago now their PreJump tournament. This is the third time they've hosted PreJump. It's a summer event, $2,000 prize pool, which is honestly hype. So shout out to the National Guard and KC Pioneers maybe as well for sponsoring Colleague. I haven't gotten the notes yet. I'll be casting on Wednesday, so I don't know exactly who's sponsoring what. But it's open to Collegiate RL teams for fall rosters as well as spring rosters, or summer rosters, I guess, for some schools like Florida. But this is where we're getting all of the kind of leaks given to us on the Start GG page for Colleague's PreJump. So big event happening this week. It's probably the biggest of the summer unless Summer Series comes back.
Well, we do have news to talk about regarding Summer Series in a little bit, but I'll hold off on it just for a quick second. No, this is easily going to be the second biggest event of the entire summer. And again, we'll touch on Summer Series in a second. And it's also what I love that Colleague does, that they simply listen to their players and their casters, and this format is beautiful. Unfortunately, I will not be, I was actually supposed to be casting with you, but unfortunately I cannot because I will be coaching because we did not get a first round bye, which we'll talk about the first round buys, or first day buys in a second here as well. But I love it now from the coaching side of things and instead of the casting side of things. The format's beautiful. It's open, double elimination this Wednesday to qualify for main event, top 16 going through that entire bracket bracket will make it, and there's about 41 teams. So it's going to be a very nice flowing tournament, and we're going to see a lot of new faces, a lot of new teams. Top 16, I think, basically guarantees that almost half the roster moves we're about to talk about will actually stick for 2 days in a row, and we get to see them go against some of the best CRL has to offer. Some of the really funny stuff about this tournament, too, is that no matter if you are in Europe, as some of the schools obviously have, no matter if you are just recently accepted, no matter if you were accepted and you're graduating, Colleague has allowed for all these teams to stick and play this event. So some of the rosters may not be exactly how they look in the fall, but there is a lot of new rosters that, again, we're really about to talk about in any second here, that will stick the entire time through. So we're very excited to see how it all plays out. You'll be on the other side of the booth. I'll be over on the field fighting for a spot Thursday. I won't be playing. Don't worry about that. You don't need to see TJ on the field anytime soon. But we should be all right. Sean's over in the UK. That's crispy. So we'll see how it goes. But we should be good making it through Wednesday.
I know. I heard that Crispy was in Europe, and I was thinking, okay, maybe actually we get a DJTJ field appearance.
It could
again,
happen.
But
Good.
maybe one day. Maybe we get a coach sub in one day. But you're following my path, and no longer casting as much, now coaching a little bit more than you were in the booth. So good luck with that. Hey, it's not easy being a coach, but I think those Concord boys will make it a bit easier on you.
Just a little bit.
We'll see what happens, though. But roster moves, as we've promised everybody. Starting off with the big one, I actually do have a Twitter link for this one. Shout out to Tihan and the George Mason boys for recruiting the heck out of this lineup. We knew Memory was already at George Mason, but Kinse and Krazix will be joining Memory in the George Mason starting lineup this upcoming, I guess, summer now that PreJump is announced. So this is a big one that I really didn't see coming, honestly. I knew Tihan was out there recruiting, but Krazix was originally in talks to go to James Madison and then flipped here in the last couple of months. So George Mason's looking pretty good for this fall, TJ.
Yeah, I mean, Memory and Proto, I think, were guarantees early on based on what we've heard. I believe Proto is from the Virginia area, and so that was pretty, hand in. That's a pretty easy pick. Memory, obviously, has played with George Mason before, but we knew that if Memory was going to be a consistent member of this roster, it was going to take a pretty wild shakeup for things to happen. I'm more surprised that Kinsey decided to go to GMU. Again, I believe he lives up near that area, like within 4 to 5 hours of driving, I believe. And I could be wrong, but I'm 99% sure that's correct. And we knew he was coming to CRL. We knew he was going to make a splash. But with his caliber as a player, both on and off the pitch, he's been doing a lot of coaching within the community. He's a really great member of the Scholastic Rocket League community. I was expecting maybe a Maryville, maybe a St. Clair, maybe a Northwood, like a big contender. But Kinsey wants to lead a roster and wants to get this GMU roster into contention, and they are, I won't say the biggest dark horse, because I think we have some arguments that we'll bring up later, but they are easily one of them. And also you get Evil as a coach, plenty of tenure that Evil has, not only working with West Virginia, but now gets to work with one of the smartest minds in the CRL scene with Kinsey, and two of the biggest veterans with Krazix and Memory too. And Proto, being a freshman, he's young, he's extremely talented. This GMU roster is not just going to be a 4-year issue, they're going to be a 5, potentially 6-year issue, depending on how some of those players take their educational journeys, I guess. Also, Jason's manager. He might be the best manager in the entire scene, and I'll stand on that. So, W. Jason for getting up there.
Hey, great vibes. I mean, you see Jason on the roster reveal, even though he's not playing, that roster will still have some good vibes in it. He's a great personality, but I'm excited to watch George Mason's now return back to the top of CRL, because that propels you in this day and age. Maybe if this was 2 years ago, probably to top 8 bare minimum, but they still have to fight for top 10, which seeing that roster I think is a little bit crazy, but still it shapes this upcoming semester of CRL, and that's only the first roster move that we're even talking about. George Mason is going to be a heavy hitter, and I'm excited to see what they can do. Hopefully they stick around in the SEL as well. We'll see how the director of league operations recruits though. But so let's go through the other rosters. Let me share the PreJump page, because there's just a lot straight up. These are all the signups for PreJump here. So if we want to go one by one, top left, Wichita State. TJ, wait, you seen anything different there?
Yeah, so there's a Mr. Price up there. I am extremely shocked and appalled that Knight is on this roster. I am not familiar with where Knight is from or his history at anywhere other than Maryville, and then before that he was at, if you remember, Bepic, because I do not.
Why'd you team me up for that?
Before Maryville?
I don't remember. That was a while ago.
I should know where he was. He was on a big starting roster, I thought, or a big academy roster before. Anyways, my point is that Knight's extremely talented. Kind of got shafted by the EU pool of CRL that came in, and so now goes Wichita State. I have no idea what to expect with this roster because I could not tell you who's going to start, probably other than Boone.
Which is funny because for PreJump, Boone is actually busy, so it's going to be Mace, Kappa, and Knight playing PreJump. But I don't know what the starting lineup is going to be for the fall. I don't have that confirmed just yet. But I mean, the fact that Knight is switching schools, I have to imagine it's because he lost a starting spot at Maryville just because you're bringing in EU RLCS players, and that's going to happen, unfortunately. But he instantly elevates this Wichita State team, I think, to a top 32 contender, bare minimum, depending on how much Kappa, Mason, Boone, whoever the two of the starting players are out of those three. If they're grinding to keep up with Knight here, this Wichita State team is jumping up towards the top of the pack.
Yeah, my biggest thing for a lot of these rosters that we're going to talk about, especially ones who are contending for maybe the lower half of top 16 or potentially all of the top 32 to 16, I feel like it's going to come down simply to the coaching, to the leadership, and especially to the hours, because that's one of the biggest problems that I think we're going to see this summer. And I know some of my guys' stories specifically. The hours that have been put in by almost everyone playing this event, even the best of the best, are very, very rarely over 40, 50, 60 past 2. So we're going to see a lot of players who are hopping on just to try and make a little bit of bread, or some of these new rosters like your Syracuses, like maybe Florida, who have been grinding, maybe JMU even, who knows, who could show up ready to go. I'm just not sure yet, but with a roster like that, it's just a matter of them putting in the time and learning as much as they can from Knight. But Knight being a team captain, I am so excited for. He deserves it by a mile. Also, side note, Boost on the Beach this year is looking to be insane. I'm just going to say that. We can talk about it after. We can talk about it after the roster moves. But the teams who were there last year getting these roster moves, George Mason, Wichita State, and a few others down the road that we're about to talk about, that might be the best land next to Boost on the, or Bluegrass Boost Battle. It could even overtake Bluegrass Boost Battle. Who knows?
I didn't even think about the quality of the teams that competed this past spring, upgrading immediately. I mean, we've talked about 2 teams that were there already, and we'll talk about at least one more. Syracuse definitely comes to mind. But you talked about James Madison. That's another team that's in the roster move conversation. This isn't actually, I don't think it's completely public, but I've been given permission to talk about it, so maybe this is our first collegiate exclusive breaking news. But right now it's up in the air about whether or not Pigeon will return this fall semester. I think those are decisions that he has to make on the personal side, and so right now I think the roster is looking likely to be Tyler, Gadara, and Fright, who's a freshman coming in, 2K player. The Gad was telling me they have a lot of optimism about, and I think Gad is expecting to grind a lot more as a team if Fright is going to be the third starter alongside Tyler and Gad. There's the lineup for PreJump. Pigeon is on the roster, but actually Fright is playing with Gad, with Tyler, as Pigeon is busy for this week, so he's not actually playing for the summer, and then still up in the air for fall. So this James Madison team could change a decent bit.
I mean, James Madison simply breeds young talent. I don't know what it is they got in the water over there, but Tyler was the first major example with Gad and ability. Then Pigeon just shows up, and now Fright, which I have to be honest, I'm not familiar with Fright's game, but I hope that James Madison is on stream Wednesday, because I really want to take some time between our games to watch and see what this new look roster could look like. Obviously, I hope that Pigeon stays, but I also have to be completely honest with everybody. If Pigeon wants to leave JMU and he goes to another team, Pigeon unironically will be a top 8 team contending player in all of CRL. Now, granted, I don't know where there's really room for him to fit on a lot of these top 8 rosters. I could potentially see a Wild Cumberland move if they want to start recruiting back in North America again. I'm not sure, but it's a big move, but Fright seems to be a really good fit. And also, it seems like that nobody really knows who Fright is yet. Yeah. I think that we all will very soon here. And I think Tyler could be a 2K level player by the end of the fall, potentially halfway through the fall. We'll have to see how he keeps on developing. But this will be a fun roster. Again, dark horse for top 32. I'm not sure if they can extend outside of that, but that's what this tournament's all about.
And I do want to stress that it isn't confirmed that Pigeon won't be returning, but it's got to be nice just to have a 2K player coming in regardless. Whether
ready.
He takes maybe Tyler's spot or is a fourth man in that lineup, or if he does try to fill Pigeon's shoes, which will be difficult to fill, but that feels like a roster that if they take in Fright. I know just because of past conversations that with Pigeon in the lineup, he was focusing in large part on his RLCS career, which makes total sense. He's fighting for main events and in main events, and so there wasn't as much focus on the CRL side of things as the roster would like at times, and so it could be good for both parties if they end up splitting. But I know those decisions aren't being made within a CRL context. That's definitely more of a personal context. So we'll see what happens with James Madison. Definitely a team to keep an eye on. But another one that kind of came out of nowhere, TJ. I don't know if you've seen Indiana Tech's new roster.
I have not, but I'm reading it now.
All right, well, here you go. Indiana Tech has gone global, recruiting EU and also SSA players to come play alongside Bluey, and he was posting looking for scrims with, I actually don't know how you pronounce it, Reshiram? And
I believe that's correct.
Okay, and Velocity. So Reshiram most recently played with Eagle and Tesho on Pony no Jutsu, which won't mean anything to anyone that doesn't actually follow SSA RLCS fairly in depth. But he made top 8 in SSA with a couple of Reunion Island players, so he wasn't even really an invading player. Velocity playing in EU actually made a main event as well, and so Indiana Tech actually very quietly upgraded their roster.
Yeah, this is, I don't want to say it's the most surprising roster move because we're not done talking about them yet, but this is easily top 2, top 3 of this entire summer. That just, I don't really get it. Like, Indiana Tech has been looking to make that jump into true contenders. I think with Illinois State struggling, I think there's a lot of room in the Great Lakes / Midwest region for more talent and more teams to contend like there isn't enough already. And I think Indiana Tech has the financials and has the leadership to make that happen. Bluey came out of nowhere this last season, played incredible. We got to watch a lot of Bluegrass Boost Battle related action regarding this team and a few online CRL big runs here and there. But I'm just, again, very confused. I think Velocity is a great pickup because playing in EU and bringing that over to NA has worked for almost the entire top 8, top 12 of CRL. That's a good pick. Reshiram, I believe that's how it's supposed to be said. Reshiram, okay. Reshiram. Either way, I'm a little confused. I don't know what Reshiram's EU tenure is like in RLCS, but going from playing on high paying for 2 RLCS splits, I believe, not just this past 3 opens, and then coming over to North America for CRL, it feels like it's somebody who's going to come over with a lot of confidence that they can just show up and do good like how they did in SSA. I'm not sure what we're going to see. Again, that's what this tournament is what it's all about. They could go 1-2. They could go 0-2. They could go 2-2. They could make it. Who knows, right? I'm confused, but I'm very happy for Bluey and Chippy. But unfortunately, if I were to guess, it sounds like that Chippy will probably be the sub/coach of this roster. I don't know if that's confirmed or not yet.
I don't think it's confirmed outside of Bluey looking for scrims with Reshiram and Velocity. That's all I know.
Yeah, so
for PreJump at least, I think Chippy is the 4th man. I'll get confirmation on that between now and the next time we do a podcast, but that's a big one. I think the top 32 is getting insanely crowded in CRL. Those colleague rankings are not going to be easy this upcoming semester. And this next one is a roster move that's players leaving a school, so I don't have anything to pull up about it, but I did want to talk about Edgewood College and how they have lost at least 2 of their players. As Timmy announced his retirement from playing CRL, he's now coaching at Carthage. That's his next move. So
a great
good luck,
addition,
Timmy. Yeah, I hope he can bring his knowledge and impart it upon other players. And then Bryant did say he was looking for offers elsewhere, but hasn't announced anything just yet. But Pink as Cat signed up for PreJump with the University of North Dakota, and I didn't know he was leaving until I was looking at the rosters today. So apparently Pink as Cat is gone as well, and Edgewood is just gone.
Yeah, and again, like, this is where I just get confused. Pink, Timmy, and Bryant are all very talented players. I believe all of them are 2.1 or 2K average players, and they all could go contend on your average scholarship or academy rosters, which is why I'm glad that at least when Timmy retired, he decided he didn't want to play anymore. He wanted to go coach and go into Carthage. That's a really, really consistent overall great program that hasn't been at the top of Rocket League, but has success in many other games, and also does really, really want to focus on consistent recruitment to then build talent. I believe they have 3 teams, and 2 of them were in contention for top 48 spots sometimes in the fall of this past year.
Yep.
So I'm just excited that he gets to go there. But Pink to North Dakota U. I don't know who the Brick Wall is. I don't know who Dinosaurs Bros is. So I'm a little confused. Maybe he lives in North Dakota. Maybe he's from North Dakota. Maybe it's a move back home. And maybe they have some side leagues they're going to play in, like NECC Division 2, 3, 4. Those are always great leagues to play in, so who knows? But very, very confusing move. And I also fully expect Bryant to make a not as similar move to his 2 former teammates. He should still be a contending player, potential 3rd or 2nd man on any top 48 roster, potentially top 32 roster as well. I think it just sucks that we lose one of our best Cinderella stories of the entire CRL season, and also the Edge jokes just kind of fall off the side of the earth. So unfortunately we lose that play, but they're going to be all right. They'll recruit a new team. They'll be all right.
We'll see. I think these kind of pop-up rosters where some schools pop up are really good for a semester and then they end up losing players. I think that's going to be a common trend until we find stability in collegiate, which, oh my god.
You got gifted subs.
I did. Blitz, thank you, man. Shout out to Blitz League for the gifted subs. Much love, my guy. Sorry I couldn't play Night Rain with you and doing this instead, but... all right, thank you, Blitz. Shout out to him for the gifted subs, and everybody that got a sub, congratulations. You get some new emotes now and can flex to all your friends that you're a MrBepic sub now. So thank you again, Blitz. Much love, man. But back into the conversation. Next big roster move, Michigan State picking up a player that I did not have changing schools on my radar. Drewy will be playing with Opbomb and Knock for PreJump, and this isn't the set starting roster yet. Opbomb was telling me that they're not doing their tryouts until August, so this isn't their official starting 3, but you have to figure Opbomb and Drewy are probably 2 starters on this roster, and either way, it's going to be a fun PreJump team to watch.
I'll make 2 points. First of all, this is a 20-hour move across the country. I'm not sure where Drewy's from, but credit to him for just pursuing his career, not only in Collegiate Rocket League, but also for his educational career, going from St. Edward to Michigan State. That's a big, big move to a very large school. For any of you who know Michigan State as a school, you know there is a lot to do up there, and they're very successful in their athletics as well. And it seems like that esports is slowly getting to that point where they can be under full scholarship if somebody like Drewy is able to go all the way up there. I'm very, very excited to see what Drewy does. And then I'll make a little bit of an argument point that maybe we'll talk about for a second here. Depending on how this team wants to play, I think the only true lock on this team is Knock. But between Opbomb and Moorview, I have to make a hot topic comment here. I'm personally picking Moorview over Opbomb. That's personally my pick, and I'll stand on that. But also, you have to notice that now you have 2 very decent, talented teams over there.
Yes.
And I was going to pull up the second roster and talk about it very briefly.
It's Gribble,
because now
Sibs, and Moorview. Yeah.
Yeah, so now Moorview is playing down on the second roster. And now, who are the other 2 again? I was looking for them. They're somewhere on my page.
Yeah, Gribble, Sibs, and Moorview are
Yeah, that's still a talented. They're still a talented
Yeah.
team. Granted, I think there's a lot for Gribble and Sibs to learn. I just hate that Michigan State can't take all these players with them. But Drewy's a big upgrade either way, and I'm excited to see how tryouts end up.
And I hate taking the attention away again, but thank you for the subs, guys. I really appreciate it. I don't stream enough for this, but thank you, Nikita and Dart, for the subs. Much love, guys. I appreciate the warm welcome back. But Morvu over Opbomb is, I think, a hot take, but still warranted. I think Morvu showed last season that he's a player that can adapt to any sort of roster. He changed his playstyle completely in the middle of the season. He was telling me that they went through a change when it comes to their strategy, and it was mostly him changing how he played the game. And they came out stronger. It led to a couple of losses in the middle of the season that people weren't expecting, but they bounced back, still made good runs in tournaments late in the spring. And so I think that sort of mentality, the fact that Morvu is willing to change his playstyle for the betterment of the team, is a testament to the player that he is. And while I don't know if he can match Opbomb's on-ball ability, he's still a great utility player. And so Michigan State's going to have a difficult time picking out who they want as their starting three. I think we can say that much for sure.
They also have 2 Power Esports Conference rosters that unironically could play each other in a final. Granted, with Syracuse's new roster moves, things could change, but who knows, right? Yeah, either way, I don't want to spend too much time on the roster conversation with Morvu or Opbomb, but I'm glad we at least share different perspectives. You did briefly mention that Morvu is a very adaptive player. That's why I love him in a 3 setting. He's also just a really mentally sound guy, and has made some great RLCS runs as well. Opbomb's made great RLCS runs, but on the 1 side of things. So I think when it comes time for tryouts, it's just simply going to be a matter of what does the team lack in, and how can either Opbomb help solve that consistency if they need it on the back line, or can more of you be there and they are more of a wild card if they already have defensive consistency, because Drewy can do it all. Knock can do it all, but I think we're all going to feel more comfortable if Knock is first man. I think that's the most entertaining Michigan State rotation, and if him and Drewy can just go back and forth and Opbomb holds up the back line, I like it. I like it a lot, but we'll see.
Okay, I still think Opbomb is the best first man you could ask for in that lineup, but we'll see what happens.
They can vary.
He's just so good in the midfield. He's so fun to watch. But we can't dwell on Michigan State. I love that team. I could talk about them. I feel like I do way too much hyping them up when I do cast them. I feel bad for the other team sometimes. But another roster move that is kind of timely. Shout out Nikita for the sub. This is, the only reason we're talking about Syracuse. But one of the biggest changes of the season. Gababy finally has some help, TJ. Lesser and Tiz are going to Q. And this team is scary.
I mean, we heard rumors that maybe Gavilan was going to be playing on this roster, but I'm very happy that Syracuse was able to go and recruit Lesser and Tiz. These are very, very talented young kids in this scene who not only can work with that Syracuse crew and actually become really nice figures for CRL and just really nice community figures in general, but they will be successful. And Gavilan is their coach, is their sub, will be managing them, I believe. And of all of the possible veterans you could ask for, Gavilan is a really, really good example, and also is probably one of the best Syracuse esports players in its history. One of the best examples Syracuse has put out of that program by far. So I'm very excited to see how this roster comes together. All 4 of them will definitely climb the scene together. But I think what's a fun topic to talk about maybe later, maybe right now, is are they a top 16 roster? Can they push towards top 8? Can they take on the likes of Cumberland? I'm not sure yet, but I think top 16 is a very safe bet for now, and they look really good in CCS.
At this point, any top 16 discussion is going to have to come with a list of rosters for me, because top 16 means so much more now in CRL than it did just a year ago, honestly. And so just going off the basis of that, it's difficult to say if they're a top 16 team. I know they are contenders, though. I think their ceiling is probably a team that could push to top 8. If CRL keeps the same format, I think this is a roster that could have an open, maybe where they get to the qualification series to top 8. I think top 16 is close to their ceiling at this point with the quality rosters at the top of CRL, but we'll see what happens. I think this is a team that has a lot of potential to develop because, I mean, Gavilan as their coach, I think is the biggest asset that this team has, because I remember watching Gavilan 3 or 4 years ago in the bubble scene. He's such a good utility player, and to have that sort of mind in the back pocket of this roster that has a ton of mechanical ability, I think he could shape Syracuse into a CRO contender. So I'm excited about this roster.
Yeah, I'm also trash talking with Nikita, so I apologize for looking away from my camera.
I'm gonna pull up chat now.
But we're just talking about Boost on the Beach again. It'll be so much fun. And this Syracuse roster will win some major conference, one major LAN. I just don't know which one. I think if you were to throw them on the Power Esports side of things, yeah, I think them versus Michigan State should be cinema. And I hope that I'm able to attend this year, or maybe cast this year. That event as a whole will be great, because for some reason the whole Great Lakes plus Boise and all those schools in the Power Esports Conference, Oklahoma as well, they're all doing well in Rocket League to a point where it should be a really nice bracket. And they may even rival the likes of Great Lakes Esports. And we'll have to see how that goes too, because they also rebranded, so they're not even Great Lakes anymore.
The fact that we have these top teams in PEC now, someone needs to do something about the marketing over there, so we actually know what results happen in PEC, where we can watch matches, because I can't follow all of those schools on Twitter. That's be the only way that I see their results. PEC needs something to advertise their matches, because you're right, Michigan State and Syracuse and Boise are going to deliver some incredible matches, and I need to be able to watch those matches.
Oh, we're excited to see what the whole team is cooking up over there, and a big shout to Syracuse for that roster. But I think if we're good to keep moving through,
yeah,
where do you want to go next? There's still a few more on the table.
Shawnee State. This third, it was told to me by Slayer at CECC, and I almost couldn't believe it. Shawnee State recruited from Brazil. Royales is coming to Shawnee, filling Duckworth's shoes and more. This dude's a mechanical wonder kid, apparently has a great attitude about the game as well. And him and Taco Stash on a roster kind of being moved around like chess pieces by Slayer. Shawnee State, I think, can finally escape from the clutches of 20 through 25 on the colleague rankings.
Again, this is one of those that I'm just very, very confused about. Funny enough, and I love Blade. Don't get me wrong. That is one of the first real friends that I met in CRL. I thought that he was going to step back, and I thought that it would have been Taco Stash and Duckworth continuing on. So I think this is more of a chemistry-related thing that Taco and Slayer stick together.
Duckworth graduated.
Oh, sorry. You're right. My bad. Again, I've been out of it this summer, apparently. So, yeah, that makes sense. So in that case, let me flip back the narrative. Slayer and Taco Stash have always been a good duo. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes to the new fit with all of the moving pieces in the CRL, I'm a little confused that Royales was their final decision. But Royales is still a very, very good player. But knowing I've played against Royales, I've casted Royales, I've watched people play Royales, and he's a great player. He's everywhere you see in ranked or tournaments or weeklies. But I don't know off the top of my head how he's going to fit, unless he will just be the midfield demon that this team really never had, which I think he can do.
I mean, this team reminds me a lot of vintage IRSC when Seabass was the third with Taco Stash and Slayer. Like, it's a carbon copy if everyone's playing similar roles back then, because Seabass was the mechy upfront guy that can dominate the midfield on that IRSC team, and now you get a guy like Royales that has I think a similar skill set. This is a team to definitely keep an eye on. Shawnee State, I mean, they play different Rocket League just because Slayer's in that lineup, and I know a lot of people hate playing against it, but from a non-player perspective, I quite enjoy their style. So I'm interested to see if Shawnee State actually can take that next step. But I expect them to actually jump into the colleague teen rankings, like just getting out of that 20 to 25 range this season.
I think for the first few months of the season, they'll be naturally more veteran members. In fact, they're keeping 2/3 of their roster. Yeah. We've seen so many rosters just completely flip around. I think they'll be a good benchmark in the first few CRL Opens, and especially Summer Series. about where teams stand. They've always been good gatekeepers of kind of the top 30, top 20 at times. That's not going to change anytime soon. But I agree with you. I think they could end up breaking top 16, but you just have so much talent that's going to be fighting with GMU, Florida, Syracuse, which we haven't talked about Florida yet. Wichita State with Knight. There's a lot of talent coming up behind them. So we'll see if they can stay on top. And kind of keep gatekeeping, or are they going to fall? And will we see another Shawnee State roster? Who knows?
All right, well, Florida is the next big one. I don't have, they're not in the pre-jump list, so I'm going to pull up something to show for them because they're playing in CCS with K-Frost. So if you don't know, True Ray graduated. He was the third alongside Larry and Hammy Crackers. And for the summer, they're playing with K-Frost in CCS because K-Frost, and this gets kind of hairy here, so stick with me. K-Frost is playing in the fall for King along with Turbo and an undecided third. And then once he graduates from King, he's going to Florida in the spring to pursue his master's degree at UF, and that's when he's going to join Hammy and Larry as their third. And then in the meantime, Florida's playing with South Florida, or formerly South Florida's SAP, which is still a really good pickup for this Florida team.
I would argue it's probably the Florida All-Star team that if you had to build it, you probably would steal Hammy, you'd steal Larry, and then pick your favorite team captain on another Florida roster. And that is no hate at all to True Raid because now he's graduated. But also, I will say out of all the people who transfer to Florida who are already in Florida, I'm a little surprised that Sap left over there at USF. They've been building a really nice esports program, but if I know anything, and especially I know Anderson, that program's president over at Florida, they're doing a lot over there. Gen G partnered with the school this past semester and in the fall as well to help kind of provide some extra support for some of their events throughout the year. And that may have brought along some really, really dope sponsors, and it brings along talent like this. And I guess you performed or you built a mini clip reel or something like that. What are we looking at here?
This is the CCS stream from the other night when Florida 3-0'd Akron Gold.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you're bringing it up because Akron Gold have been the undisputed kings of CCS for the last 2 major seasons, and now they get to play a non-conference play, and Florida made Akron look like a bunch of champs. I got to watch the back half of this series, I like really just the end of Game 2 and then all of Game 3. And it's scary how consistent that this Florida roster becomes when you have veterans like Hammy and K-Frost leading the way. If anything, I think this is the season where K-Frost breaks out into a true contender in CRL and a really nice face in the scene as well. Who was at Nichols? Who was at King? Who I believe was also with Polar at Nichols when he first started. He's been everywhere and has experienced so many different seasons of Collegiate Rocket League, but I think this right here could be his most successful. Easily should be his most fun.
And he adds so much utility to this team, and in watching this series, it felt like K-Frost was taking the midfield over, and that allowed Larry to kind of take a step back and focus more on his reads and defense, which I was incredibly impressed by because in the Florida roster in the spring, it was largely True Red, I think just because of a lack of speed relative to his teammates that kind of filled that third man role where he was the one that was usually making a lot of back third plays. But Larry was doing that on this Florida roster with K-Frost and Hammy leading the charge offensively. And K-Frost, it felt like, had boost to make a play happen every single time the ball fell to him. And I looked back, and he was actually the player in the lobby that had the least amount of boost. So I don't know how he actually made that happen, but he was so oppressive in the midfield that Florida, they did, I wouldn't say dominate Akron Gold, but the Zips really did have a tough time playing this Florida team, who are now, I think, the second best team in CCS right now.
Yeah, and I don't believe that rankings have been finalized either, but you can make that argument any day of the week. And I'm also so excited for Larry. Me and you have gotten to have a lot of personal conversations with Larry. Yeah. We've seen him at 2 different lands in the last year because we got to see Florida show up to DreamHack, and then we also got to see Florida show up to... Actually, maybe it was just DreamHack. I actually believe it was.
The Myrtle Beach land
the only time that
they played at.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. But either way, I'm very excited for Larry because when you look at, I'll say quote-unquote third men across CRL, and getting to play with more talented players, at least in their competitive careers and their history, you always will improve. I mean, look at Helix, look at Concord, and the way that development happened. You can look at Ball State, you can talk about WOVA and how that happened. This is just simply a good move for all three of their futures, and I'm glad that Hammy now has another veteran to lean on, and you can let Larry be a true wild card, both with the demos and the shots. He has that Patty type of vibe to him that I think he'll fall into that role as he only gets to play with these guys more. It's a very exciting roster.
It really is. It's probably got to feel so freeing for Larry as well. I mean, to be... I don't know if I would call him the like weakest individually player on that roster. It's still probably up in the air because he's improved so much over the course of the last couple semesters. But it's got to be freeing to be able to have more flexibility in your role. And that Florida team, I hate that we have to wait until the spring to watch. But with Sap filling in, we'll see what he brings to the team as well. I'm excited to watch that version of Florida play whenever they do play next. And I think that's all of the roster moves, the main ones we talked about.
I got a few more.
Okay, go for it. I can pull stuff up as we go.
So we talked about it briefly at SCL LAN. Bruton Parker is now officially bringing Milk into the starting lineup. It will be Cass, Manny, and Milk, but for colleague PreJump, it will be Antics, Manny, and
Classic.
Milk. So that's just a little side CRL / SCL moment. Also, SDSU is playing with Sean B, who I believe was formerly the sub for this roster, and now Sean B will be starting. Gyro is now playing with West Virginia. We've been waiting for, I don't mean to go too quick, you're trying to pull up individual rosters,
SDSU.
but I'll turn back around.
Emporium and Beach Funhouse. The name is crazy.
Give everybody a moment just to enjoy that team name. It's probably the best in the entire tournament. But now I can transition to the next point. Gyro is now playing West Virginia. We had a lot of conversation last year about, was Gyro really a starter? Was Gyro taking a semester off because he'd play in tournaments, then he'd step back, then he'd play in tournaments, then he'd disappear? Very, very confusing. But now it seems like this is our final roster. I agree with these three fully.
Yeah, I guess that's why I didn't kind of count the West Virginia as a big roster move. I mean, I'm pretty sure I heard that they were just letting him get settled into the college life. That's why he would play some and then still, focus on RLCS as well. But I'm glad to see him in the starting lineup. That this West Virginia team isn't going anywhere except maybe further up, because they were a squad that didn't meet their full potential last season, and now I think they can go after some championships with Angel, Gyro, and Daunt. If this is the starting lineup for the fall, which you never know, but good team. I think that's all I've got to say. I'm glad to see Gyro playing.
Yeah, and then I'll speed run some of the last few notes as well. Funny side note, George Mason's B team will be Jay, Josher, and Titanium. So one of the former GMU starting rosters this past year will now be the B team. They're still a dark horse you have to look out for. And then right below this roster, Bepic, is the current group of St. Clair players who are actually here in North America. Almost all of them are gone. I know that I just talked to Shuffle not that long ago. He's been in Italy ever since, I believe, right after they finished at CECC. Mm-hmm. And so now a lot of them are gone, but we get Christian, True, and Fatal, and it seems like Thermal is still in North America. Also, Barish just got a promotion within St. Clair recently. Hey. He's now the esports coordinator there. That's a topic for maybe later. But St. Clair, even through all the madness, put a roster up, and I'm very, very happy to see that we will get to watch them play. Also, Drexel has guard in the lineup. I don't know if that means that... It seems like it will be Kevin Zerf in guard, correct? I believe so.
Oh, I actually don't know if they're changing their starting lineup. I assumed it was still Baron, Zerf, and Kevin.
I assume with guard coming in, that guard would actually be a starter, but that's just maybe a personal take. We'll have to see who shows up whenever it comes crunch time. And then a few more side notes to make as well. A lot of your main CRL rosters have not changed. Ball State, still the same. Yep. No concerns there. And then there was one more, Grand Valley State, a very fun roster to watch who normally likes to contend for top 48 spots. They're going to be there. Let's see here. There was one other that I saw. Tigres, I believe, is the exact same roster. I don't see any new names there. And also Rochester Christian, I was under the impression, they're on the third page as well, I was under the impression that this roster was going to transfer out. I thought that Magic was going to go to a different school. I didn't know what Skies and Luca were going to do, but they're still together. Iowa State is still together. OC Esports is still together. Oklahoma Christian as a program is still standing. So overall, very, very fun notes to talk about there. Just briefly, Kaiser is also going to be staying together, and that's another fun little sleeper roster. And then finally, my very last note is on the final page, you will see that Dylan and TNT will represent Kennesaw State, and that means that Flitz should be their completed third. So that means Dylan will be playing with the A team. It seems like until Curry either is available, or I believe Curry maybe even graduated. Maybe Dylan's in chat and correct me, but I believe Curry graduated, and I think Dylan will be stepping in to play with Flitz and TNT. So that'll be a fun roster who will be traveling to a lot of lands, if I had to guess. And then one more side note. I keep making you go everywhere. Go back to the third page and look in the dead center towards the bottom. King will be playing with K-Frost for this event.
Yes.
So K-Frost is now playing on 2 different college rosters with Florida and CCS and with King for maybe one last hurrah here for the Colleague PreJump. So there you go. There's your speed run for all the rest of the notes.
He's still playing with King for the fall with Turbo. It is the last hurrah for Big Wade, though, who did graduate. So, last Big Wade hoorah. We'll see if King can have any Big Wade magic. That'd be a nice send-off. A top 16 for that King roster. But their third is undecided. The K-Frost Turbo combo will be the King core for the fall, and they're still deciding on a third. And apparently, if things go their way, they could have a 2100 player. They could have a Champ 1. And they're not sure which one it'll be just yet. So
I love Collegiate Rocket League. Love it.
Keep an eye on King. But is that all the roster moves we've got as of now, as of June 16th, which is still 3 months or so until the season really does officially start again. So there's a lot more time for some crazy moves.
I do believe that's it. Also, DJTJ to Concord. Obviously,
Yeah,
a big important one there. I do want to read what Dylan's saying real quick. So he's saying that KSU Esports as a whole is going to be making some big changes. It seems like they're going to be making more varsity level changes. So it sounds like that it will be TNT, Curry, and Flitz once the season gets started. Okay. But Dylan will actually probably be an alt to the starting roster. But we'll see if Flitz plays or whatever. Because it sounds like that if Curry can't play, then we will not see Kennesaw State in Colleague PreJump. And also, I talked with Dylan earlier, but now he's saying it in chat. Yes, Kennesaw State is looking to finally get esports scholarships. As a Georgia native, it's about dang time. So I'm excited to see what happens with Kennesaw there. I hope they get to play with Flitz, just because I got to see Dylan super sub coming back in, this time on a higher roster than the Buzz of GSU one 2 years ago. So we'll see. But yes, that is everything. Oh, sorry, one more shout out.
Yeah.
My boy, another Georgia native, my boy Shone, is the official manager of the Northwood Rocket League team. So at the top of CRL, you got 2 coaches / managers who are from Georgia. Just throwing that out there.
Hey, talking about the Kennesaw State stuff as well, as a Kennesaw native, I'm extremely excited if they get scholarships. I've been hoping that KSU could take another step into esports. I mean, they hosted the Peach Belt Conference LAN this past spring, and that was a League of Legends and Valorant LAN that they hosted at the campus. So I think it's only fitting if you're hosting conference LANs, you should have a scholarship program. So get some scholarships, guys. I hope the boys get rewarded for all their years of representing Kennesaw State pretty well in CRL at least, and then the other esports as well that KSU does that I don't follow, unfortunately. But still, regardless,
I think that's all.
Well, I think that's all. Finally, I'm sure there'll be more that get announced tomorrow or something. But shall we move on? What's next? CCS results?
Yes, and luckily we set the scene for a lot of these teams, other than some of the back half, and some wild cards as well. So you go ahead and you take it where you want to.
Okay, let me remind myself of what we're talking about first. So, big one we kind of mentioned already. Florida 3-0 swept Akron Gold. Syracuse 3-1 to Akron Gold. I think Florida beating them is a bit more surprising, as Syracuse are, I think, the undisputed #1 team in CCS right now, which is a return for them. They were at the top of CCS previously with old rosters, back when Gavilon was a starter. But Akron Gold struggling a little bit with 2 losses in non-conference play. It's a little surprising if you don't follow CCS a ton. Akron Gold are the reigning champions there, but do tend to struggle early in the season, and this is the summer season as well, which teams I think just naturally take a little less seriously. So they're struggling a little bit at the moment, but I think they're just waiting for that tournament run to hit and then go and win it all again.
I mean, who knows? Akron Gold always seem to clutch up on the back half of the season. They just simply progress on a direct up, not even a curve. They just go. They're at the top by the end of the season at all times. They reach midseason form in the first month of a school semester, so they're not done. Those were non-conference games, so Akron will probably have a very nice, easy road to get down to not only a top seed when it comes to the CCS national bracket. I don't know if they're going to be a 1 seed. I would imagine it's probably a guarantee as long as they go undefeated in conference play that they're going to earn that spot. But with Florida in the mix, who should win the SEC, with Syracuse in the mix, who should win the ACC, I think that you're looking at 3 1Cs of the 4 that we're going to see whenever the CCS national bracket comes around. But there's also some more results to talk about, and I'll kind of go ahead and lead into this one. Colorado brings back their extremely talented, I believe, CCS championship winning roster at their peak.
Not the full roster.
Correct me if I'm wrong there. So 2 of the 3, though, I believe.
Thumper, if Digo's starting, I think he was on the starting roster then. But they are missing Brazy and...
I thought Cole was the 3rd. Am I crazy?
Oh, it really tested my knowledge. CRL's gotten to the point where I can't just straight up remember rosters from
Yokes. It was Yokes. Thank you, Prost. Thank you, Dylan. Okay, so sorry. I take it back. With a championship-winning captain and 2 decent players, that Colorado roster is still a decently highly ranked roster. Yeah. They've really struggled. You have down losses to Purdue and NAU, which I believe was a 1-3 and an 0-3 that they lost to those 2 teams, if my memory serves me right. 2-3.
They lost in 5. Still, though.
Yeah, those aren't surprising losses, I'll say. But then you listed West Virginia B, and I am very appalled at that game.
I gotta find this one. So many conferences.
Somewhere in the madness.
It's Colorado State. Somewhere.
There it is.
Here. Yes, they did lose 0-3.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
That's the club roster. That is the West Virginia club roster. And no hate to the West Virginia Club Esports program. I've never seen that West Virginia roster show that they can be a low SSL, even a GC3 contending roster, but it's a big win for them. And for Colorado, I mean, you already had to hit the reset button with this new roster. It's a pretty heavy reset button, and it seems like it's just going to continue getting deeper and deeper to being pressed fully, because I don't know what happened, and their schedule doesn't get any easier from that West Virginia game. So they're 1-1 in conference play. We'll have to see, but anyways, that's Colorado.
West Virginia is 4-0 in conference play, so take with that what you will. That could be a team that turns some heads, similar to a Texas A&M roster that did the same thing this past spring semester. And A&M, I mean, I don't think they're a top 32 CRL team by any stretch right now, but this is a team that, if you're not careful, they will beat you. I think more than likely they'll be an NECC Division II team this upcoming semester, if all goes according to plan. Right now in SEC play in CCS, they're 4-0, and that isn't super impressive. They got taken to 5 by Alabama, but A&M is quietly good. And if you're not careful, if you are a good team, I think this A&M team has a high ceiling at the moment, and they can take good names down.
Well, and they've shown it in the SEC. Unfortunately, A&M and Florida do not get to play in the regular season, so we will probably have to wait and see this matchup at its full force whenever it comes time for the championship matchups. But you're about to pull it up, and I'm glad I'm kind of segueing into this point. Texas A&M beats Iowa State in 5, and then beats Drexel in 5. That is a huge, huge game win for them. And yes, they are quietly not just good, they are quietly contenders.
Yep, I mean, if you can beat good teams like this, I mean, Iowa State is one thing, and Drexel has struggled at the start here a little bit, losing to teams in the past they haven't lost to. Sorry, Prosk, Northeastern included. Prosk, how many series in a row, I don't mean to insult you with this, did Drexel beat you guys? Because I remember the last time you were like, nobody beats us 4 times in a row or something like that, and you finally got them, so nobody beats you guys however many times in a row that was. And then they lose to A&M as well. It sucks for Drexel, but it shows you the skill of these underdog teams that if you're not careful, like a team like Drexel, you'll lose to an A&M or a Northeastern that is going for their last dance as well, with Prosk in the lineup. That Andrew Bro and Harlequin and Prosk trio, it's been fun to watch these last couple of semesters. They are going for their last dance, I believe, as a trio. And hey, you beat Drexel here in the summer, which is hype, and A&M's doing it as well. These are squads that I think at the end of this CCS season, once conference play wraps up, will be contenders to make runs to maybe the Elite 8 and Final 4 if we really get a team popping off.
It's really beautiful that for casters like us who spend so much time not only in the top 48, the top 64, the top 128 of Collegiate Rocket League, that we have so much to talk about.
Yeah.
You won't see a lot of these teams make a real change on Championship Sunday and CRL Opens. Granted, that could change, who knows? But for stuff that we do, and for all the leagues and events that we get to focus on, this is heaven for us. And I also want to bring up another Southeastern roster we got to talk about, not a lot today, but should be. UNCC. They have had their fair share of inconsistencies, don't get me wrong, until Bala came in. Then they were unstoppable. Until they got to CCS Nationals. Then they finally had to take a step back. But then they had a really good CRL run that same season and went into the top, I believe it was the top 24 in a CRL Open, top 32 at a minimum. And then they show up. Yeah, it was a very nice deep run. So that's what I'm saying, is that this roster, along with many others, are struggling who were formerly consistent members of the top 48, of the top 64. Granted, UNCC, they did have to play Syracuse, and they did lose 3-0 to Syracuse.
To be fair, it's their only loss.
But I'm making a big point out of it because I feel like that right there should be a top 32 at its peak, or at its midpoint, a top 24 at its peak matchup, and then a top 48 matchup at its lowest. Either way, you're looking at 2 very talented scholarship-level rosters, and I just didn't expect UNCC to kind of get mollywopped the way that they did against Syracuse. And I don't know if that was at the point of the season where I believe Gavilan actually had to sub in for a few CCS games, because I did see him playing a few of the actual conference games. And I was talking with Tiz in Twitch chat, who was out of town. So either way, with a sub or without, I just don't believe that should be a 3-0. And UNCC still has to prove they belong consistently in the top of their regional categories, because you have to worry about teams like Texas A&M, teams like Florida, teams like Alabama, who some are ranked higher, some are ranked under, but then you have the wild card new roster, like a Syracuse, like I'll throw Florida in that conversation again. I would even throw Northeastern in that conversation again. Who knows? I would love to see them against like an Iowa State, like a Drexel, to get a true idea of how cold they really are. But in conference play, they should be A-okay.
I think it's a contributing story to the overarching narrative of these players that have been in collegiate for a little while now, like Lazy and Knights, that now have a shot at the top. And UNCC showed that. I'm pretty sure it was a top 16 run that they made in a CRL Open. That I think it was 3 or 4 that they went that far. And now that there's new talent coming in, new imports that are coming in that can displace them, they need to keep up. And they've got, I mean, picking up Bala is big, and they were, this past spring, one of those teams that was displacing former CRL standouts. And now it's a constant ebb and flow, this tidal wave of new players come in, and you can't get caught in the undertow. And I hope that's a motivation for a lot of these players to grind harder. Even though Rocket League may not be in its best state right now as a game, there's still, I hope, motivation within CRL results to be grinding and figuring out how to improve to, I mean, stay relevant in CRL right now, because it's hard.
It's the beauty of the culture of our scene as well, of the top 48, top 64, top 128 at Collegiate Rocket League, is that trying to tell a non-scholarship roster who could be top 32. I think one of my biggest examples is UTK Retirement Home. You look at Crisp, you look at Taibu, you look at Jobro and Shaka. If that roster actually cares like a scholarship roster, like a Syracuse, they are contenders in a CRL Open. They can mess around. They can go top 16. But trying to explain that to a roster who doesn't have enough motive within their schools to care, I understand it. I just hope that as hopefully Rocket League unveils this 10-year celebration, it looks good in what I've seen in the blog post. We don't even have that on our little deck, but I'll mention it briefly.
I actually did. I was going to add it to Scholastic Minute, but we can talk about it now. That's totally fine with me.
I was just going to briefly, we can actually say it for later. I was just going to briefly say that because there's so much going on, like this all looks so good for Rocket League.
Yeah.
This is a lot of what we've been asking for in terms of new content coming back, and I think it could not come at a better time, because once we finish out with Worlds in September, we will be entering the heat of CRL Opens, and we'll be entering the heat of LAN season in the fall, heading towards October as well. So I just want to see, hopefully, as a community, everybody actually wants to step up and really give them their all, and really, you know, not abuse, but take advantage of what Collegiate Rocket League can provide with the LANs, with the connection, with the program experiences that you can build, whether you're a club or not. We'll have to see how schools like UNCC do, how schools like even FIU, how they do, how schools like Colorado do, even Akron Gold trying to bounce back to the top. All of those rosters at different skill levels, but at many different varying expectations as well. So hopefully no burnout this summer, because CCS will do that, especially after some very tough non-conference play. But we still have a lot that we'll have to save for whenever the CCS championships roll around. We'll have summer series to talk about. We'll have colleague PreJump to talk about. Who knows? So we still have a lot of time before August. I just hope that we see the top 48, top 64 be as contended as it should be on paper.
Well, talking about the Rocket League update, it really is giving a little bit of optimism, and I've been involved in the Rocket League scene as a caster for a while now, and there's always this constant loop of a lot of poor decisions that decrease confidence in the growth of the game, and then they announce something cool like this. Maybe not something as cool as this. This is probably the best update we've had in a while, the best roadmap we've had in a while. And then
one of the only roadmaps we've had in a while.
Yeah, and maybe outside of the esport, go into an open circuit, and then telling us a whole bunch of stuff that they're going to do, and then half of it gets done, and the other half doesn't. But still, this is inspiring, and we've had inspiring updates before, and then it's lackluster. It happens. And then it's a whole bunch of bad decisions again that decrease confidence. It is a loop, and I hope we're finally breaking the cycle, but I've enough times now thought we were breaking the cycle to where I'm a bit jaded, and I'm not super optimistic that this is going to change the course of Rocket League. There'll have to be more that comes with it, but that's my 2 cents coming from a guy that's been doing this now for about 5 years. So we'll see what happens. I fear I'm a bit jaded, but hey, I still want to believe in Psyonix, and I actually played Rocket League for the first time today after they announced this. I played 2s for like 30 minutes.
Oh my.
I don't do that anymore. So, hey, if they can make me do that, then maybe there is something special coming.
Well, they'll make you log in for 4 weeks for those gilded rewards. So, hey, at least you'll be on partially, maybe doing some ones that I've seen you play. Yeah. But it's a very, very good sentimental point. I just hope that, as more so outside of CRL, that the game is good enough.
Yeah.
That way, maybe we get some more financial involvement in CRL. We have more of a reason for programs to become scholarship programs. I can only imagine what would happen if a school like Texas A&M started giving out scholarships. If a school like Florida gave out full scholarships. Who knows? But either way, enough being sentimental. We're just glad that in our realm of CRL, including the very top all the way down to the very bottom, there is something to talk about. And CCS Championships, which I believe should be in about a month and a half's time, maybe a little less, for this season, should be a blast to not only cast, but to watch and to talk about here.
And a couple other points that I think we missed previously. We talked about PreJump a lot. I don't think we have to dive back into it, considering it's funny. Before every podcast, I'm like, this is probably going to be a short one. Maybe we stay under an hour, and then we're only halfway through the show. It feels like right now, but we didn't talk about the invited teams. So I think we touch on that real fast before moving on.
Yes, I was saving this because I have some conversation that I want to bring up.
Go for it.
All right. Well, I don't want to be hateful, so I won't be first. I'll have a genuine, open conversation about this first. Four teams with big fan bases you could pick who have been faces to watch this summer. I like the list. Now, granted, are these the 4 teams that probably should have been picked to get a bye to the main event? I disagree with it pretty heavily, but I'll let you talk before I dive into some of my takes.
I think the invites, and this is something, if Dart's still watching, he can confirm, the invites were chosen largely based on roster hype. So I think this makes sense. George Mason especially getting picked, and I mean, all 4 of these rosters, I think, have a lot of hype coming into the event. And so, if Concord were to get an invite, I don't think anyone would blink. And so that would make sense. But it's the summer tournament. Colleagues trying to maximize hype and excitement about the event. So I can't blame them for choosing these 4. And I'm excited to watch it either way.
I agree, and I think that as long as these teams are seeded fairly, then I'm totally on board. That these are teams that I think deserve to be on display, on stream, whenever things roll around to Thursday. But, obviously, as a current coach with Concord, we saw this. We were pretty taken aback by it. I know that Ball State, I know that Northwood are probably also very confused. And also, with the whole point of media and roster hype, that makes sense as well. I think George Mason and Syracuse make perfect sense. With West Virginia and Michigan State, I think it's more of a fanfare pick. And I think that's fair, too. If that's how they want to go about it, cool. But as long as they're not the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed, this is probably okay. Because you can guarantee that, well, I say this, I don't want to jinx anything. You can almost guarantee that Northwood, Ball State, Concord will all be there on main event Thursday. But it was just a little confusing, just a little, but I had to, make that point just for the general public that there's reasons outside of skill why these 4 teams were picked.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, they definitely aren't the 4 best teams in the colleague lineup. But maybe invites were sent out before signups happened, and I don't know. Maybe they accepted before Northwood was going to play. That's definitely a question to ask Dart. But Prosk, to answer your questions, this is the format here: open bracket, similar to CRL, the double elim, into a top 16 single elim on Thursday, and registration closes on Wednesday at 5 Central. So TJ is lying to you and spreading misinformation.
I'm lying.
Even though he's got the link, but it's all good. The registration's still open, so definitely sign up. I do want to see you guys play. That goes for, I think, Karsuna, if you're still here as well. A&M, play. Yes. I don't think I saw you guys signed up, so definitely get on that. It's a 2K tournament, and it's in the middle of summer where events are really dry. So I would advise everyone to play if you are not signed up.
Yeah, this will probably be the most accessible tournament this summer. And again, I've already mentioned it 1,000 times. Yes, Summer Series is happening, but we have absolutely no word or details on dates, on format, on previous CRL points or rankings mattering at all. I'm not sure at all. But yes, Summer Series is happening. I got that confirmed last month. I've heard directly from CCA that Summer Series is happening, but they are waiting to make announcements. They wouldn't tell me any dates. They wouldn't even tell me a month. So I'm not sure what they're gatekeeping. It could be really good. It could be really nice involvement, maybe a big prize pool. But it also could be maybe a format change, which I am hoping and praying that they don't leave league play for Summer Series. But anyways, that's a side point. My point of bringing up league play is that this right here is the tournament to play this summer. It's the easiest to get into. Yeah. And also, there's a lot of talented teams who will be fighting for that top 16, top 10 spots, because I think you have maybe your expected 2K plus rosters who will take up the first 10 to 8 spots. But outside of that, it should be a really nice top 32 to 48 grudge match.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting bracket to watch and see where teams stand at the moment. And that's funny you mentioned that about Summer Series, because that's more than I knew. I knew there were rumblings about it coming back, but I didn't know it was actually coming back. So,
yes.
Sweet. We'll see what happens.
But they wouldn't tell me.
Yeah. I mean, after the CRL announcement and the format that they chose for that, I'm going to hold all judgments until they actually announce the thing. But I'm glad there's something.
Amen to that.
Last bit of news on roster information came 4 minutes ago in my DM. Shout out Coach Stanley. The Baylor announcement is going to be next week, so their roster is incoming, apparently. I didn't ask if that was off the record information, but it is just a teaser, so go follow Baylor Esports or wherever they are announcing that. So that is a roster. He was telling me the sort of level that he was aiming for, and I think if all goes according to plan, that's a minimum top 32 CRL team in their first semester. So Baylor might be back.
I mean, I love Coach Stanley. Easily, in my opinion, top 3 directors in the entire scene if you know what Coach Stanley does outside of building competitive rosters. Funny enough, I was almost under Coach Stanley's lead as a freshman. I almost was at Bruton Parker. So I have a lot of respect for what he does. And he went to Baylor. He's back at his alma mater. They've given him the keys to the city.
Yeah.
I can say that much. So in terms of what they have at their hands to then give to 3 really talented players, I want to think it's a lot. But also, Baylor is a private Christian school, and I know that their tuition and I know that their fees is very, very expensive. So I hope that whoever the 3 are, whether talented or not, I just hope they go take full advantage of that program. They are one of the fastest growing varsity programs in the entire nation, and Coach Stanley seems to be a genie in a bottle in terms of collegiate esports directors and how he sets his teams up. Manny, Antics, Cass, Milk, Kyler, Corrupt, all Bruton Parker players who went through the Coach Stanley gauntlet and came out way better than they came in. And I just hope that there's a lot of success over there. I hope to see a big LAN on that campus as well. But Baylor's got a lot to work on outside of just competing. And hopefully they'll be at Syracuse levels within the next year or 2.
I'm excited about that. I'd have full faith in Coach Stanley, and that's the best summary I could give. So keep an eye on what Baylor's doing with regards to esports. But I think since we have gone about an hour 15 now, we can skip predictions. I mean, you want to give a winner, TJ? Who you think's gonna win PreJump? I assume I know who you're going to suggest.
Well, I mean, prize pool's top 4, so I'll speedrun my 4, actually, because I know I keep talking way too much.
Go for it.
Give me Concord, and then give me... Oh, man, I felt good about this earlier, but now I don't feel good about it. Give me Concord, give me Northwood, give me Ball State, and then give me... Oh, man. You know what? Just for the sake of content and for the sake of sleeper picks, give me either Syracuse or George Mason over West Virginia. That's what I'll stick with.
Okay, so I think those the 3 that you mentioned, the Concord, Ball State, Northwood, definite locks. They don't typically mess around even when it's a summer tournament like this. West Virginia is definitely the most unknown of the top 4, how they'll approach this tournament, considering it's sort of a one-off in the middle of summer. But I'll stick with West Virginia. I think those are the 4 teams that will have to be dethroned when it comes to PreJump. But hey, I want to watch. I'll give my next couple of teams to keep an eye on after that. George Mason's an obvious one. I want to see how Drewy fits in with Otbomb and Knock as well. I feel like the spotlight gets taken from Knock and Morvu, especially sometimes on Michigan State. I'm excited to see how deep they can go, but I don't think they'll have a championship-winning formula just yet. But Wichita State and Indiana Tech, I think, can also make deep runs. IT especially, with their imports coming in. I think Bluey's a guy you can easily build around. He's got a lot of mechanical ability, and if they can find some chemistry for this tournament, I think Indiana Tech's my sleeper, and then Wichita State with Knight, an easy one to pick to make a run if Mason and Kappa are on point.
Yeah, I think my hottest takes would be pretty similar. Like maybe you mess around, you get a floor, or you get a maybe a King top 8. Maybe you mess around and you get a Shawnee State top 8. I think those are maybe some great sleeper picks, but I really do hope that we see West Virginia, George Mason, Syracuse, and Michigan State fill out the top 8 next to Ball State, Concord, and Northwood. That should be a really talented championship Thursday. So we'll see.
And you know what? I mean, Shawnee State, it slipped my mind for a moment. I know they've been grinding as well, because Slayer's been talking about all the scrims they've been taking and wanting to play on Monday Night Lights, which, for those wondering where Monday Night Lights is, it'll be back in August. I'm going to be gone for a gig for the bulk of July, so I'm not going to be streaming too much. But Shawnee State, they want show matches, they want scrims right now. I think this team will be battle ready for pre-jump, and I could see them grabbing top 8 for sure as well. So I'm just going to let the action unfold on Wednesday and stop with the whole predictions thing right now. But other things to talk about are awards. We can go through this one pretty quickly as well. I'll start with mine. We didn't really talk about it, but SEL LAN wrapped up. This was a month ago now. Bruton Parker, our Southeastern Esports League champions. Congratulations to the Barons. It was a long time coming, honestly. James Madison put up a really good fight in that grand finals after they found some footing after games 1 and 2. Ignore those. But good grand finals towards the end. We thought JMU was coming back there to force a game 7. But Bruton Parker, they get the win, and I really want to give them an accolade for being fantastic faces of the league. Because when they first joined the SEL the spring before this past spring, they were pretty quiet. They didn't interact as much as your UTKs, Kentuckys, the former faces of the league. But they've really become vocal and really good personalities. And I wasn't sure when they joined the league if a private school that's really only known for esports would have the same sort of passion for a regional league like the SEL is. But Bruton Parker has come in, and they've been one of the best teams we could have chosen to come in and take the reins of the league. So shout out to the Barons. They got to lift their trophy in front of us, DJ.
And if you had to pick a player of the tournament, just because we might as well go over this, who would you pick off that Bruton Parker roster, or would you go somewhere else?
I mean, player of the tournament, it would have to be the BPC guys. Picking one of them, though, was difficult. Probably deciding between Cass and Manny is too difficult. I don't think it's fresh enough in my mind to really give an MVP to one of the two of them, because Manny's such a good vibes guy, and when BPC struggled, which was minimal during the spring, Manny was the guy that was off. And so the fact that he came to play at LAN and look as consistent as ever, I want to give him credit for that. But Cass was the player that they wanted him to be at the very start of the season. And I know they had an up and down spring outside of the SEL, but Cass was on point at LAN. That roster looked really good, and so I'd probably give Cass MVP just because the Dutchman was on point at LAN.
Well, I'm glad we differ, because I was actually going to say that Manny was one of the biggest crutches, because Cass was a great defensive midfield player, but I think when it came to offense, I think Manny always is that guy for Bruton Parker. But anyways, I'll get into my player and team of the week. I have 2 CCS-related picks. When you think of the new #1 seed in CCS, you would normally think of Gababy, who's the captain of that Syracuse roster. I didn't pick Lesser. I didn't pick Gababy. I picked Tiz, actually, because I think when you talk about sleeper picks in the top 16 of CRL, Tiz is somebody who, when you think of rank A, you don't think of just yet. Lesser's in that conversation as well. But when I was watching this team play, and they all look consistent, they all look talented, but if I had to pick the next breakout between Tiz and Lesser, I got to go with Tiz. Gababy is probably maybe the easy pick there, but I had to dig in the bag a little bit and figure out who's going to be the next rank A player to come out of Syracuse other than Gababy. So I'm going with Tiz, and I'm excited to see how they look in Collegiate PreJump as well. This will be their first and most stressful matchups of their entire careers as a team before we get to August, so who knows. And then for my team of the week, I'm going back to CCS. I'm going SEC bias, and I'm going with probably the most random story in CCS, but somebody who could mess around and take down Florida in the SEC. Give me Texas A&M. They look really good against some of the I used Barons or Defenders, not as a slight to Drexel, I promise, but overall just as a really good analogy for what they seem to be within CCS. They could be a future gatekeeper level roster if they keep this up, or they can mess around and they can be a 1 seed in the SEC. If they beat Florida in that final, I think you have to give them the 1 seed, or at least one of the 4 in the actual colleague tournament. But we'll have to see overall. But that's my team of the week.
All right, Texas A&M. Shout out to the boys over there. They're fun to watch too. They play a really fun style of Rocket League, and I enjoy streaming them. So if you watch the stream, you'll probably watch them on some Monday Night Lights come August or September, because that is a fun roster to watch. But those are our accolades for the summer results. Let's move into the Scholastic Minute, which is a couple minutes this time around. And I'm going to start it off by talking about something, closing a story, actually, that we brought up on the last episode of Collegiate Exclusive. And this was wrapped up a month ago. It was a couple days after we talked about it, but I was in Europe for a couple of weeks, and so we haven't had a podcast since then. But the story where this Super Smash Bros. Team was left out of the Play vs. Cup, even though they had won something like 70 matches in a row. It was insane. They were a top team. Play vs. just forgot to invite them. It slipped through the net, and it's embarrassing. But Play vs. did rectify the situation, and I appreciate this follow-up tweet about it. Play vs. got them into the tournaments, and this coach here, so this was an HSEL team that is playing in the Play vs. Cup as a result of the merger. And so Coach DJ here is talking about how it will be a slow process to regain a lot of trust with Play vs. considering past decisions, but there's optimism here. I think that's a great microcosm for everybody's sentiment regarding the Play vs. HSEL and Playfly merger that we talked a lot about last month, because it will take time to regain some trust with Play vs. But, I mean, there are some positive signs, TJ, and I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, this is probably the most positive Scholastic Minute that we've had so far, because it seems like every time there's some sort of drama within Play vs. or within the High School Esports League, and now that they're all coming together, we spent so much time on our last episode talking about how we were concerned, or at least I am. I'm more concerned than I am excited for that merger between Playfly and HCL, or sorry, Generation Esports, who owns HCL, right, and then of course Playfly, and then Play vs. But so far, the fact they are willing to go back and actually fix what they did wrong and not ruin these poor kids and students' experiences, I have a lot of respect for that as somebody who went through the system. So shout out to Play vs. Temporary shout out, because you shouldn't have messed up in the first place. But either way, I'm glad they went back and fixed it, and now that they've, it's happened, you learned from it, and I know they're having a lot of staff changes over there, so as long as the team knows what to do going forward, it's a win. And it'd also be very funny if Coach DJ's team goes on to win the whole thing, which I think, if you're making predictions, isn't a bad one by any means. So we'll have to see how they do when it's all said and done.
And shout out as well, we're keeping the positivity flowing here for once during a Scholastic Minute. League OS is hosting a 2025 Scholastic National Championship across a couple of different esports, but Rocket League will focus on, for now, shout out to Beaver Creek High School for winning the Rocket League version of the National Championship. I'm glad to see League OS still continuing to put their footprints within the Scholastic Esports space. They've hosted a couple of combines. Obviously, they're the tournament organization platform for the SEL, NECC, and a couple of other leagues. I do love their product. They're stepping into becoming a portal as well, challenging Stay Plugged in that regard. And so I like the work that League OS are doing. So I wanted to shout them out during the Scholastic Minute for hosting a Rocket League National Championship here for a couple of schools, as well as a Valorant LAN at Maryville tomorrow and Wednesday, because the NACAD National Convention is going to be in St. Louis, and so they're hosting a combine there as well. So League OS is doing a lot right now, and I appreciate that.
I also have to keep the positivity going to a collegiate program. I have to talk about Maryville, because they have been extremely involved in the development of middle school and high school programs within St. Louis, which, as you guys know, is a major city. And the fact that they have gotten collegiate and Scholastic Esports as a whole to grow, not only in the way that it's viewed by the city and the lawmakers in that state and also in that city, but then to the actual kids and the coaches and the teachers and the administrators who are at these schools as well. Clerky, and that's the director of Maryville, by the way, he's doing an incredible job over there. And the fact that League OS and them are partnering together and NACAD's going to be in St. Louis, I could see NACAD consistently being in St. Louis. I could see Maryville having their own collegiate or Scholastic Esports conference they hold every year. There's just so much positive out of that program. On the competitive side, I believe they just won the CLOL League or CLOL Championship as well this past month. So congrats to that team. And their Valorant team did very well in CVAL as well. The Rocket League team did very well at the NACE Championships. They're hitting every single aspect of what Scholastic Esports should be, absolutely on the nose. Also, Coach DJ is an alum of Maryville, so have to bring that up as well. They are bringing people, the right people, I should say, into the program, and they are not only putting them on absolute pedestals that are reinforced by steel, but they are then putting them in the spots once they're done at Maryville to go make a difference, like Coach DJ. It's just so cool to see. So big shout out to Maryville.
They are doing things in the collegiate space that no one else really is. The fact that they had an NACL team in competitive League of Legends, which for those that don't know, it's like the Tier 2 system, North American League, and Dark Zero bought out the roster. And that's, I mean, that's a testament to what Maryville's doing. The fact that they're building professional rosters that an org sees. It's like, that's a really good collegiate team. I'm going to take over, and they're going to compete under our name now. So really, really big shout out to Clerky and the entirety of Maryville for what they are building. Even though it's an esports that we don't technically cover on the podcast, it's still worth noting their Valorant and League of Legends dominance, as well as their Rocket League dominance. So thumbs up for Maryville. Missouri as well is kind of a quiet esports state. They have a good high school system in place, and then to have a program like Maryville in a major city, kind of leading the charge, it's two thumbs ups actually. So well done.
Not to mention the University of Missouri either, who are also doing very similar things in a different area. So that's a conversation for another time. But you got a lot of talent from the admin side doing great work over there.
All right, well, any other topics you want to talk about, TJ, before we kind of close out?
It's been a busy summer. It's only going to get busier. I'm very excited for the Baylor announcement. We still have no idea what the confirmed rumors will end up settling on when it comes to schools like St. Edwards, when it comes to schools like Maryville, when it comes to schools like St. Clair even. There's a lot that will shake up, at least from what I've been told. There's a lot that will shake up all of CRL, all the way from the top 2 down to the top 48, top 42, top 32, top 120, whatever the heck. Throw a number on it. Something big is happening, but especially in the top 8, top 16. That's where I was going with that original point. That will look completely different this next CRL season. And yes, I am hinting at Maryville and St. Clair making roster moves. And I do hope that those roster moves end up happening, because it's going to change everything. Also, there's some rumors of North American professionals, maybe a few potential major players who are going to be coming to CRL. I don't know too much. Nothing's too confirmed. But let's just say that big or small schools, there's a lot and a lot of money that's starting to be pulled up for some big players. I'm just excited to see how it all happens. As a coach, as long as we're still top 4, top 8, I can't really complain. So we'll see how it goes. Excited for PreJump this week. It'll be my debut with the Concord boys, and it should be fun overall. It's a lot of debuts this week, so we'll just see what happens. I hope you enjoy it from the casting side.
I absolutely will, and I do have to say, I mean, you're taking the reins of a national championship winning roster, TJ. So if Concord slips, that's your fault. That's your fault.
It's my fault.
All I'm saying, no pressure to keep them in the top 4 at least.
Even if all of RLCS in North America comes to CRL, which could happen, it's going to be my fault. Yep. I'm willing to take that.
Yep. That's the way it goes. Being a coach is a thankless job, but it's a lot of fun. Best of luck with the Concord boys on Wednesday. Make sure you all do follow Colleague TV on Twitch and on Twitter to keep up with their rankings throughout the season, and then tournaments sprinkled throughout the season in the summer as well. That's where I'll be on Wednesday in the booth with Vaudable. and Just Staying Alive as well, producing it on Wednesday. And that'll be at 7 Eastern Time. So Colleague TV on Twitch if you want to keep up with all things Collegiate Rocket League. Follow DJTJRL on Twitter, on Twitch, and then Bepic Casts as well. That's me on Twitter. And if you're watching us right now, you probably actually do already know our Twitch channels, but follow us here as well. There's a lot going on in Collegiate. We try to stay on top of it all. And I am traveling a lot in July, so I don't know how often we'll be having podcast episodes. So no consistent schedule until more August, September. That's really the plan for CEP at the moment. But thank you all for watching Collegiate Exclusive, as always. Follow us on Spotify as well if you like. I like seeing that number grow as we do upload the podcast episodes there. And I think that's everything. TJ, any last words?
No, thanks for all the support. I'm happy that we get to keep doing this, and we started late this past spring, so now we get a full year, a full season with this. I mean, hey, we're looking to be the most listened to Collegiate Rocket League podcast out there. We know who we're going up against, so we'll see how it goes. But we're just glad to be here, and we're glad everybody keeps supporting. Very excited to keep everybody in the loop with every living thing going on in CRL, and we'll have to see what happens between now and August.
Absolutely. It's a lot to keep up with. And shout out to everyone that watched today. Shout out to people that dropped the subs as well on the MrBepic channel. Much love for the support there. And shout out to all the fathers for Father's Day on Sunday. I know my dad watches the majority of my streams, so he's probably listening right now. Love you. And yeah, that does it. Everyone take care. Have a good night. And I will see you on Wednesday to watch TJ's Concord boys win it all.